The grand hall shimmered under the golden light filtering through tall windows. The man, cloaked in a dark suit, turned toward the young woman standing before him. Her pastel pink hair gleamed softly, cascading down her shoulder in a loose braid. Dressed in a flowing aqua gown that sparkled faintly under the light, she looked at him with wide, uncertain eyes, caught somewhere between awe and nervousness. His back straightened, every motion composed, while she seemed almost hesitant, clutching the edge of her dress as if bracing herself for the words she needed to say. The scene froze in a delicate balance, the gentle swirl of her long dress brushing against his coat as they stood close yet worlds apart. His stance was firm, collected, while her hands trembled slightly by her side. The faint light danced around them, warm yet distant, mirroring the space that neither seemed ready to cross. Her emerald pendant glimmered faintly against her chest, a symbol of unspoken intentions, of courage still gathering itself. Finally, she broke the silence, her voice soft but filled with a determined undertone. "I heard that Mr. Nan-gong is also attending the party tonight," she began, eyes flickering with cautious hope. "So I want to find him to discuss some stuff." Her tone carried both purpose and uncertainty, the kind that came from someone trying to prove their composure while hiding the storm inside. Her fingers intertwined nervously as she clutched the jewel at her collar, her gaze dropping slightly. "Hope he understands what I want to negotiate," she thought, whispering the words in her mind. Her heart beat faster, not only from the business matter she hinted at, but from the man standing before her, someone whose presence alone made her chest tighten in both fear and fascination. But before she could say more, he turned away, swiftly, coldly. The movement cut through the warmth of the moment like ice. His face was unreadable, but his eyes held no trace of softness. The word coldly seemed to echo in the air, matching the chill in his demeanor. She stood behind him, her expression faltering as the hope in her eyes dimmed. Whatever courage she had gathered began to waver under the sharp sting of his indifference. His voice broke through the silence with a faint trace of sarcasm, the corner of his mouth curving just slightly. "It turns out you're a fan of Lee. So surprising." The tone was light, but there was something sharp hidden beneath it, a teasing jab that felt too deliberate to be casual. His dark suit gleamed softly in the evening light, the golden embroidery catching the glow as he slipped one hand into his pocket, studying her reaction. Before she could answer, he reached out. The moment their fingers brushed, time seemed to slow. Her hand, delicate and trembling, was caught gently in his. The faint warmth of his skin sent a shock through her, as though the air itself had turned electric. The world around them blurred. Only the faint glimmer of the chandeliers and the sound of their breathing remained. Signal. The unspoken word lingered in her chest, hinting at something deeper, something neither dared to name. Her heart leapt violently in her chest. Thump, thump. She pressed her hand against her chest, feeling the wild rhythm she couldn't control. "This guy," she thought, unable to finish the sentence, her cheeks burning with a mixture of embarrassment and confusion. Across from her, he smirked, calm, confident, and clearly aware of the effect he had on her. The playful curve of his lips carried a quiet challenge, as though he were daring her to look away first. Later that evening, he sat on the sofa among the city's most polished elites, his dark overcoat draped casually across his shoulders. A glass of champagne sparkled faintly in the companion's hand. "I just thought," he began, his voice smooth and steady, "that Muji's young master wouldn't bother showing up at this kind of party." His tone carried that familiar mix of mockery and poise, the kind of remark that could sound polite to some, but cutting to others. The conversation around him quieted just slightly, as though people had learned to listen carefully when he spoke. He leaned back, arms crossed loosely, the faintest smile playing on his lips. Every motion was precise, deliberate, the embodiment of self-control. The man beside him chuckled softly, lifting his glass, but there was an underlying tension in the air, one that hinted that beneath the civility of this elegant gathering, a silent rivalry was already taking shape. The man's lips curved into a faint, knowing smile, the kind that didn't quite reach his eyes. His voice carried quiet confidence, tinged with the faintest hint of provocation. If you have joined, then there is no reason I cannot join. The words hung in the air, deliberate and smooth, as though every syllable had been measured. The glint in his eyes suggested more than simple conversation. It was a challenge disguised as charm, and everyone around could sense it. Across from him, another man, sharp in a dark striped suit, raised his glass of champagne, his demeanor calm but his tone edged with subtle mockery. Moreover, Mr. Beiming seems very busy, doesn't have many opportunities to meet. His eyes narrowed slightly as he spoke, his gaze sliding over his companion. It was a polite remark on the surface, but beneath it ran a current of rivalry, quiet, poised, and dangerous. He leaned back into the plush sofa, one leg crossed neatly over the other, his hand resting with practiced elegance on the armrest. The faint reflection of the chandelier shimmered across his glass as he swirled it thoughtfully. His movement spoke of control, a man who always knew how to turn conversation into a game and how to win it without lifting a finger. Not far away, the mood softened. A golden-haired man with a charming smile turned to the young woman in a mint-colored gown, his voice gentle. "Come here, take some rose tea." She blinked in surprise, then smiled politely, accepting the delicate porcelain cup from his hand. "Thanks," she said, her voice light, though her eyes flickered briefly toward the others in the room, wary, unsure where she truly fit in this gathering of powerful men and hidden motives. As he handed her the tea, his tone turned curious, almost teasing, but careful enough to stay courteous. "Just now, you said that Digua Corporation is the investor for the movie this time, so maybe you and Yi knew each other from before?" She froze for half a second, the cup trembling faintly in her hand. His question was casual, yet it carried weight, a thread connecting past and present, one she wasn't sure she wanted to untangle in front of everyone. The faint sound of porcelain clinking echoed as she tried to compose herself, her eyes avoiding his. Across the lavishly decorated room, their eyes met, face to face for the first time that evening. The air seemed to tighten between them. She sat frozen, clutching her glass, her cheeks tinged pink under the warm chandelier light. The man before her stood tall and calm, arms crossed, his gaze unreadable, sharp, assessing. No, not sure. Maybe not so familiar?" She stammered, her words tumbling awkwardly as she tried to look anywhere but at him. The bouquet of roses between them did little to hide the uneasy flutter in her chest, or the tension sparking like static in the silence that followed. The elegant woman beside the man turned slightly, her curiosity piqued. Her tone carried polite surprise, but her eyes glimmered with something sharper. "Digwo Group invested in the movie? Don't you know this?" The question hung like a poised arrow. The man didn't flinch. Instead, his lips curved ever so slightly, his gaze steady, composed. Beneath that calm exterior, though, there was a flicker of interest or perhaps amusement, not at her, but at the girl sitting across the table. "So, Lee," the woman continued, tilting her head, her expression now edged with intrigue, "they want to invite you to be the male lead?" Her voice was smooth, yet there was a challenge hidden beneath it. A mix of disbelief and curiosity. Everyone's attention shifted toward him. The room seemed to quiet, waiting for his reply. Sitting beside the pink-haired girl, a silver-haired man raised his glass slowly, the liquid within catching the golden glow of the lights. He spoke in a low, calm tone that betrayed no emotion. Maybe so. His words were simple, yet they carried a weight that silenced the murmurs around them. The girl glanced at him from the corner of her eye, uncertainty flickering in her gaze. His presence beside her, composed and cold, felt both reassuring and suffocating at once. As the conversation swirled around her, the girl's thoughts raced. She looked at the man across the room, her heart pounding. What does he mean? She wondered silently, gripping the cup in her hand. He obviously knows Nangong Li, but he wants me to personally invite him? Her confusion deepened as her gaze darted between the golden-haired man beside her, still smiling with quiet amusement, and the dark, unreadable figure standing before her. The realization sent a strange shiver through her. This encounter was far more complicated than she had imagined. The golden-haired man leaned slightly forward, his tone casual yet pointed. A teasing smile played at the corner of his lips as he gestured with one hand. Just now, these two girls invited Lee to be the male lead for your movie. They almost got kicked out. Don't you have any idea? His words, though laced with humor, carried an edge of irony. The atmosphere shifted instantly. The pink-haired girl lowered her gaze, her fingers tightening around her teacup. Embarrassment crept up her neck, her earlier confidence melting away under the weight of everyone's attention. The man dressed in dark attire, calm and composed, responded with a faint, knowing smile. His voice was smooth, each word deliberate and disarming. If I ask Lee, he will definitely not refuse, but he won't be happy in his heart. So there's only one way, to use a harder method to request. His tone was almost playful, but the glint in his eyes suggested calculation. He was someone who understood the subtleties of power, how pride and persuasion could intertwine like threads of silk. The light caught on the intricate embroidery of his dark suit as he adjusted his tie, his movements steady and precise. The air around him seemed to carry quiet dominance, the kind that needed no words to command attention. Every gesture, every pause hinted at a deeper strategy unfolding behind that serene exterior. Across from him, the silver-haired man's eyes flickered with amusement. He tilted his head slightly, the corners of his mouth curling into a faint smirk. Oh, you mean if it's their invitation, I can decline. His voice was calm, but beneath it lay a trace of challenge, a subtle pushback at the other man's composed confidence. The pink-haired girl's breath caught, unsure where this exchange was leading, yet unable to look away. The man in the dark suit lifted his glass, the crimson liquid swirling like velvet under the chandelier's glow. His lips curved into a half-smile as he met the other man's gaze. Of course. The word slipped from his tongue like fine wine, smooth, certain, and slightly mocking. He took a sip, his eyes never leaving the man before him. The tension between them thickened, polite on the surface, yet unmistakably laced with rivalry. The man sat elegantly on the couch, his demeanor calm yet commanding. Dressed in a perfectly tailored suit with gold embroidery gleaming under the light, he lifted a glass of red wine with poised fingers. The ruby liquid swirled smoothly as he gave it a gentle twist, its fragrance mingling with the quiet luxury of the room. Every movement he made spoke of confidence and refined control, a man accustomed to power and attention. Tilting his head slightly back, he took a slow sip of the wine. The crimson color touched his lips, and the motion of his throat as he swallowed revealed a quiet sensuality. The air seemed to still around him. Even something as simple as drinking felt deliberate, graceful, and strangely captivating. A faint smirk played across his lips as he set the glass aside. Then, with deliberate slowness, he ran his tongue over his lips, a small, almost teasing gesture that seemed to carry a world of meaning. Across from him, a woman could hardly tear her gaze away. Her heartbeat quickened and her cheeks glowed faintly pink. The words that flashed through her mind were simple, yet undeniable. She was fascinated by him. Standing close, she found herself completely ensnared by his presence. His dark suit contrasted with her delicate blue gown, and the warm light between them flickered like a secret connection. His hand rested thoughtfully at his chin, his eyes sharp yet unreadable, while she clutched her necklace, trying to steady the flutter in her chest. Everything about him, his posture, his voice, his gaze, exuded effortless allure. Her thoughts tumbled uncontrollably as she stared at him, her face flushing deeper with every second. The charm he carried was not of this world, too dangerous, too mesmerizing. Finally, her mind whispered what her lips could not speak. What a demon!